friends, today we are here with some leftover turkey and we are gonna spend the evening making one of our favorite leftover turkey meals, turkey gumbo. So we've already taken our leftover turkey carcass and we made a bunch of broth with it, and I will post the link to that down below in the description. But I left out about 4 quarts of broth here and our turkey meat, our leftover turkey meat, our dark meat that was stuck on the bone, and then some of the white meat. And we are gonna take that and make gumbo. I am from South Louisiana and this is one of our all-time favorite comfort foods. This recipe is a variation on a recipe. I'm from Lake Charles, and every year the Junior League of Lake Charles puts out a cookbook called Pirate's Pantry, and I would highly recommend that if you love Cajun food. It's wonderful, but there's a gumbo recipe in there that my family has loved for years and years, and over the years we've slightly tweaked it. So this is based on that recipe, but it's slightly different. So I will go ahead and put the recipe detailed down in the comments. But we're gonna start with whatever leftover turkey you have. If you just want to make chicken gumbo, that's totally fine. That's how we make it most of the time. It's just that this time of year we have leftover turkey. And if you're gonna make chicken gumbo, you want to go ahead and get a whole chicken and boil it and then pull it off. Whenever you're using poultry off the bone, you wanna make sure that you don't have any little bone fragments in there. And be very careful of that. But you can do the same thing, and you can either use chicken broth or water in it. It's fine. It's just a little more flavorful when you use the chicken broth. So the other kind of meat we're gonna use is sausage. So I have about 2 to 3 pounds of smoked sausage here. And the great thing about gumbo and soup in general is you can kind of play with whatever you have around. You don't have to be super precise. Now with this sausage, I'm gonna slice this up into little bitty, about 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch rounds. And I'm going to put them in this pan because we're gonna brown the edges. You don't have to do that. You can just put them in the gumbo like this, but it gives them a little bit more flavor. So let's get to cutting all these. Now that we have our sausage all cut up, we're gonna take it over the stove and we're just gonna lightly brown it. And we're just over medium heat, stirring this around and letting the edges brown just a little bit. This is just gonna draw out some of the flavor. While we're letting this brown, I'm gonna go ahead and cut up our vegetables. All right, so for this recipe, we're gonna use 1 bell pepper, 2 onions, and 3 or 4 stalks of celery. Usually I use a bunch of green onions, but I don't have those today, so we're gonna make do without. I'm gonna save out the scraps as usual. We can either feed them to our chickens or we can use them, put them in a freezer bag and use them to make broth later. I just don't like to waste things, especially since food prices are so expensive these days. So if we can save on our chicken feed, or we can save and make some delicious and flavorful broth, we will go that route. And since these aren't terribly big onions and we're leaving out the green onions, I'm gonna go ahead and add an extra onion. And last, I also wanna add some garlic. So I'll take 2 or 3 cloves of garlic. You can use garlic powder, but fresh garlic is always better if you have it around. You wanna peel the papery part off the garlic, and you wanna smash the garlic with the side of your knife to release those juices, and then chop it. And that's that. Our veggies are prepped and ready to go. Let's go ahead and check on our sausage. As you can see, they have that nice brown edge on them. It's letting the flavor out. This is perfect. So I'm gonna turn off the burner. We're gonna set them to the side for putting together our gumbo. If there's any part of this process that is the most integral into making gumbo taste like gumbo, it is this part, making the roux. This isn't going to be your ordinary roux that you mix up for a gravy or something. Cajun roux, when you put it in Cajun food, it's gonna be a lot darker. And there's a fine line between getting it dark enough for that deep flavor and burning it. And believe me, I've done both. If you don't get it dark enough, it's just not gonna taste right at all. And if you get it too dark, it'll taste burnt. So we're gonna take half a cup of oil and heat this over medium heat. And we're gonna take a cup of flour. And we're just gonna make a basic roux. Mix it in and stir it together and spill it all over your stove, apparently. And it's gonna take a while to really get to the dark color we want. It needs to be a dark caramel color. And you can go ahead at this point and add some salt and pepper. And that's just gonna flavor it up. The more flavor you can layer as you're going, the better. And we're just gonna stir this. Now, you want to pretty constantly stir it and not leave it gone for too long because it can burn really fast. Continually stirring it is gonna give it a nice, consistent texture, a nice, consistent browning. We're starting to cook up nicely, but we are not quite there. It's still very much too light. And as you can hear, I've just turned the fan on because inevitably, if you're not careful, you're gonna set the smoke alarm off. Just as dark as you need to get this roux, it's, that's in fact, a lot of the ways my husband can tell, ooh, she's cooking gumbo because the smoke alarm just went off. But we're starting to get there. It's not quite ready yet. It's starting to get more brown though. All right, we are getting there. This looks really good. Now, one thing I do wanna say is that it'll smell burned if you're not used to smelling roux, but that's just how it is. This is right about just right on the cusp. And you can see how nice and dark that is. It almost looks the color of ground beef. Yeah, that's what you want. You don't want it terribly dark, but you can see right here, just on the cusp of burnt, and we get that nice deep flavor. So let's go put together our gumbo. All right, now we are ready to combine all the ingredients into our stock pot. This one, I think, is a 14 or 16 quart. That's usually generally pretty good. If you're making it for more people, obviously scale up. But this one will do. And first we want to put in our roux. We just scrape it all down there in the bottom. We want to put in our sausage that we've browned. And I'm okay, this wasn't super fatty sausage, but I'm okay with a little bit of that grease because it adds flavor. We're gonna add our turkey. Our chopped up veggies. I'm gonna put a 1/4 cup of parsley in here. And I've got this red pepper that we made from the garden this year. I'll link that in the description below so you can see how to make some. And we're gonna put some red pepper. Again, with red pepper, it's dependent on how spicy you like it. We like a little kick, but we also have some children that don't like the kick as much, so I don't put as much as I otherwise would. Then we put some salt in. And some black pepper. Now, you can taste this throughout the process of cooking and see what it tastes like. And towards the end, if you need to add any seasoning, go for it. All right, now we are gonna add our turkey broth. And we want about 4 quarts of broth, or alternatively a couple of cups of broth and then some water, or you can even do all water. Broth just makes it a little more flavorful. We're gonna now take it over the stove and we're gonna put it up to high heat and let it boil. And then once it's boiling, we're gonna reduce the heat to a simmer, down to low or medium low, depending on the temperature of your stove. And we are gonna let this simmer for about 2 to 3 hours. The longer you let it sit and simmer, the more flavorful it becomes. In fact, it really becomes super flavorful after it's sat overnight in the fridge and really congealed. But this is gonna be delicious. So let's get it on the stove, let's get it boiling, and we'll talk about what's next. Now the last thing we want to do when we're making our gumbo is we want some rice, because gumbo is traditionally served over rice. So I have this handy dandy rice cooker because we eat Cajun food all the time and we eat a lot of rice. But if you don't, just follow the directions on the bag of rice. It'll tell you exactly how to cook it and exactly how many servings for how many people. It's really foolproof. You'll just boil some water and get it in there. But the rice cooker makes it even more foolproof, because while I'm up and while I'm working in the kitchen, I can set it to go and I can set it to be ready at the same time that the gumbo is, and it'll be nice and warm and perfect. And I don't have to think about it. So this is a really inexpensive tool if you really do a lot of rice. I think I have an Instapot, and I do believe there's a way to cook rice in your Instapot. So if you have an Instapot, check that out so you don't have to have one more appliance. But we use this guy all the time. So for our family of 4, we're gonna do 3 cups of water. And then the water to rice ratio with your rice cooker, it comes with a little cup, and we're gonna do 3 of these little cups. And rice really is one of those staple foods that can go a long way and make your meals go a long way. I know the economy is getting tight, like we already mentioned, and everybody's feeling the crush. But you can buy a massive bag of rice that will last you a long, long time. And this rice is gonna make 6 to 8 cups of rice, and it's gonna be more than enough for this meal and for our leftovers all week. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn this on. I'm gonna put the delay timer on it for 2 hours, since we're cooking the gumbo for 2 more hours, and then I just hit the cook button, and it is that easy. It's just, it'll be ready to go when the gumbo is. So see you back here when our gumbo is all done. And my microphone didn't catch the last little bit of this, but we have delicious gumbo. We put the rice in first, and then on top of that, we're gonna pour some of our yummy gumbo. And this is gonna be a fantastic treat. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoy this family favorite as much as we do. Have a great day.